This song is called Surrender, and it is a song that I wrote when just sort of feeling like I was just in this place of a void, and so I hope that you will find meaning in it. Thank you for taking me this far. It seems just like yesterday that my life came to an end, or so I thought. I've been blessed, but I find myself feeling empty once again. I don't know who I am, don't know where I'm heading. All that is real to me is this void I am living. Oh God, turn this end to a bright new beginning. I just got to let go, relinquish control, give you all the time to renew my soul, break free from this spell and face all my fears. Please take over. My God, I surrender. I faced so many ups and downs, but this time I'm afraid I can't make it all by myself. I need you, God. I've been blessed, but life's roads have left me stranded once again. I don't know who I am, I don't know where I'm heading. All that is real to me is this void I am living. Oh God, turn this end into a bright new beginning. Oh, I've just got to let go, relinquish control, take all the time to renew my soul, break free from this spell and face all my fears. Please take over. My God, I surrender. I've just got to let go, relinquish control, give you all the time to renew my soul, break free from this spell and face all my fears. Please take over. My God, I surrender. My God, I surrender. Oh, my God, I surrender.
Thank you, Deidrey. That's beautiful. So as you heard in the Daily Word, oh, by the way, hello. Good to see you all. I feel like there's an old story about a Catholic priest who used to speak about heretical things, and so the Pope told him he had to stop practicing in a church. And so he was gone for like 6 years or something like that. And when he came back, he began his talk by saying, "As I was saying." And he went right back to saying what he was saying before. So as you heard in the Daily Word, this is Palm Sunday, and it's the first day of the last week of Jesus' life. We heard that the story commemorates that of Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey amidst cheers and accolades and palms. And see, Jews from around the country had come to see this ordinary man who had demonstrated extraordinary powers. A man with the courage to challenge the law and confront the pompous temple officials. A man who healed the blind, the maimed, the sick, the lame. And a man who had opened their hearts and minds with simple stories carrying a powerful message. Most recently, a man who had raised Lazarus from the dead. So Jesus was a celebrity. The people thought that he was a god. We got a free spirit in here today. So, the people thought he was a god, but today we might call him a superhero, right? But if we check in with Jesus just a short while previous, we meet a deeply human person. I want to paraphrase here the stories that are depicted in the Gospels of both Matthew and Luke. On the way to Jerusalem, the apostles had paused to rest with Jesus on a hill overlooking the city. Jesus climbed down from his donkey and sat on the ledge. And looking down over the city, he wept. He wept, saying, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you have killed the prophets and stoned those who were sent to you. So often I have wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and yet you were not willing. If only you had recognized the things that make for peace. Even now, you do not. And someday your enemies will surround you and crush you and leave your children desolate, all because you were unable to hear the voice of the Lord. Soon I will leave you, and you will not see me again. But someday you will cry out. All of you will cry out. Blessed was he who came in the name of the Lord." I'm personally haunted by the image of Jesus sitting on that rock, looking down at the city of Jerusalem and weeping. Human to human and heart to heart, I can feel his grief. He has done his best, and still they don't understand. But even so, he loves them dearly. And so it grieves him to know that they'll pay a painful price for their willful ignorance. Of course, we can see that this story is very prophetic. I can easily imagine Jesus weeping for us today, can't you? How sad that we who have had so many opportunities to create a world of love and peace are still unwilling to do so. The issues are the same today as they were in Jesus' time. Ignorance, stubbornness, arrogance, greed. We hear Jesus' message. We sense its truth. We may even be holding a vision of a better world. Yet for some reason, we are still unable to step into it. Jesus wept. And if you're like me over the last few weeks, so do we. It's strange that we human beings are willing to suffer so deeply and still not change how we think or what we do. It's like we get mesmerized and paralyzed by the world's horrors and its most heinous criminals. We grieve for the unimaginable hardship and loss that some people are going through. And yet, you know what? This current nightmare is doing what they all do, keeping us so distracted that we can continue to avoid looking honestly at ourselves. Our gaze is constantly turned outward when it needs to be turned inward. We tell ourselves we're powerless. After all, what can one human being do? Yeah, I know, me too. And then I consider how one leader with a handful of sycophants could create such enormous chaos and suffering. And how one other leader with courage and passion can stand up to the bully and in the process unite the ununitable. The ego demands constant feeding, right? But where there is passion and purpose, there is amazing power. Like Jesus, from carpenter's son to an example of love and action for billions across the millennia. Like Zelensky, from a performer and comedian to an example of love and action for millions in today's world. Taking passion and purpose into action is scary, even under the most ordinary circumstances and conditions. It might mean that the direction of our life will change. It might mean, Larry and Deb, that you need to leave your home and move. It might mean our current relationships will be called into question. It most certainly will mean that our priorities shift. I speak from experience, you know that. Believe me, there were many people who thought I was crazy and selfish for leaving my home and my thriving business to go to seminary at the age of 53. But today, I can't even imagine what my life would have been if I had not done so. Looking back, I see that something magical began to happen the day I first walked into a Unity Church in 1984. I wept that day too, but with relief that I had finally found the place I belonged. Like so many Unity newcomers, I was eager to learn and grow. Little did I know that literally everything in my life would change. Day by day, I became more aware of thinking and behaviors that were out of alignment with my true self. At the time, I didn't realize that what was happening was transformation. And out of that would come this desire and the courage to go with it, to say yes to my path with a heart. The heart path is not necessarily charged with emotion. It's not usually marked by urgency or drivenness. It's more like a gentle, persistent call or longing in the soul. Perhaps to give voice to something inside you that needs to be said. Perhaps to build something. Perhaps to right some wrong that you see right near you, next door to you, in your neighborhood. Perhaps to relieve someone's suffering. The path with a heart is uniquely yours, uniquely mine. No one else can walk it for us, No one else can take responsibility for it. But Dane Perry, I don't know if you know him, but he's the author of The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is a beautiful book. And he does a pretty good job of describing what this is like. So I want to read it for you. He writes, "Sometimes I feel that my life is a series of trapeze swings. I've spent most of it hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along at a steady rate of swing, and I have the feeling that I'm in control of my life. I know most of the right questions, and even some of the right answers. But every once in a while, as I'm merrily or not so merrily swinging along, I look out ahead into the distance, and what do I see? I see another trapeze bar swinging toward me. It's empty, and I know in that place inside of me that knows things, that this new trapeze bar has my name on it. It's my next step, my growth, my aliveness coming to meet me. In my heart of hearts, I know that for me to grow, I've got to release my grip on that present, well-known bar and move out into space to grab hold of the new one." When I read that, I thought, oh my God, that's exactly what it's like. Sometimes, more often than not maybe, the path with a heart finds us. Some life event, some trauma or loss or illness turns us in a whole new direction. At the time, we may say to ourselves, oh my goodness, it's the end of the world. Well, maybe it is. Maybe a new world, a new you is being called out. Jesus weeps because he knows that suffering comes to those who resist this call. He weeps, yes, but you know what he does next? He gets back on his colt and continues traveling his own path with a heart. He knows the road ahead will be challenging. He knows it will take everything he has, all the faith, all the courage he can muster to walk it, yet walk it he must, because in the end, it's his reason for being here. His life purpose, we often call it. And you know what I know about this man, Jesus? I know him, just the way you know him. He was both willing and scared. As he nears Jerusalem, he finds the streets lined with those people who want to worship him as their Messiah. See, the Jews have been waiting for a very long time for a deliverer who will come and lift them out of their oppression. They're thinking that Jesus could well be that Savior. That's why they call him the King. They praise him to the stars, but they still don't get the message that no person can lift us out of our oppression. Only an inner transformation can do that. So here we are, thousands of years later, and most of us, many of us, still don't understand. Maybe we hear the words and get them intellectually, but then you know what we do? We turn around and grab at anyone or anything that we think might relieve our discomfort. Seems like the idea of changing our own way of thinking and behaving is a sticky wicket we will go to pretty great lengths to avoid. We think that world events are so different and unusual when in fact they're macrocosms of what each one of us is going through. It's consciousness that's driving that situation forward, and it's consciousness that's going to heal it. It's going to solve it. The decision to follow our path with a heart is a major one. Whether it means going off in a new direction or simply recommitting to the work that we're in the process of doing now. in either case, some things are going to need to be surrendered, as Deidrey said. Other choices must be set aside. Other doors allowed to close. One thing we know, though, in our gut, just like that butterfly song, big change is ahead. And so we come face to face with that demon called fear. But here's something I've learned about that. Fear is an expected companion on the path with the heart. As a matter of fact, I go so far as to say, if there's no fear, you're not on it. Sam Keene is a consulting editor for Psychology Today. He's the author of 12 best-selling books. And in one of them, called Learning to Fly, he shares the wisdom he gained from the years he spent learning to be a trapeze artist at the age of 62. When asked why he would do such a ridiculous and foolhardy thing, he replied simply, "I've always dreamed of flying." See, it was a lifelong dream. As a young boy, Sam and his brother Lawrence used to spend hours and hours in the woods behind their home in Alabama, and they would build tree houses, and then they would put in ropes or vines, and they would swing from vine to vine, pretending that they were flying. But then there was this disaster. Their father got a major promotion, and he took them off to the city to work for DuPont Corporation, and plopped them down in this beautiful suburban neighborhood. And Sam was miserable. And he grew up to be rather a morose teenager who barely graduated from high school. He constantly longed for wide open spaces, so as soon as he graduated, he packed up his old truck and he drove out west, and he worked on a ranch, and he worked as a carnival barker, anything that let him stay out in that open place where there were unexpected things happening. But in the fall, duty got the better of him, probably in the voice of his father, and he dutifully returned home to attend a local college, mainly because, really, what else was he going to do? For 3 years, he said, he barely got a C average. Then in his senior year, he began the study of the great philosopher, and his mind caught fire, and that fire led him straight to Harvard Divinity School. How in the world he got into Harvard Divinity School, no one really knows. But he studied under teachers like Howard Thurman and Paul Tillich, and he threw himself into his classes on religions and philosophies and prayer and poetry and meditation and music and chanting. And he read the work of inspirational writers from around the world. And Keene writes this: "Although I did not understand it at the time, what appealed to me about the examined life and religious mysticism was not very different from the lure of the trapeze. All promised freedom, release from the mundane, a sort of winged existence." So as a student of the trapeze, Sam found out by necessity that he was also a student of fear, because he faced a mountain, a wall of fear, and there was no way around it. There were only two alternatives, same ones Jesus had, same ones you and I have. Step into it or run away from it. Like Jesus, Sam chose to face his fear, and he learned a lot about what he called the unholy ghosts in the dark regions of the psyche. Judy, you know what I'm talking about? And he learned that there were only 3 basic survival fears: fear of falling, fear of being imprisoned in a tight space, and fear of loud noises. I thought that was interesting. Soaring on the trapeze, he confronted viscerally that fear of falling. He also discovered that beneath that were deeper psychological fears rooted in shame and guilt. But beneath even these, he discovered that abiding at the bottom of his psyche was a great existential fear, the fear of death. Facing this greatest of all fears, he came to a conclusion that ultimately became life's most compelling questions for him. How shall I live knowing I'm going to die? And how can I find within me the courage to live courageously and joyfully so that I can follow my path with a heart? I don't know about you, but these questions resonate deeply for me. Maybe we can get pretty good at suppressing fear or rising above it, or at least not obsessing about it. But I don't believe we can completely conquer it. So if there's no use denying it, and we can't conquer it, and what do we do when our strategies for controlling it stop working and we hit the wall? Has anybody else besides me ever hit the wall? Oh, come on, you have to. In therapy, I was told that the only way out is through. I did not like that answer. Are you with me? So I asked them, but how do I go through it without being derailed by it? And I received some very intelligent advice. Expect fear as an inevitable part of life, and when it comes, hold your head high, look it squarely in the eye and say, I see you and I feel you, but I am bigger than you are. Sounds good, right? Actually, sounds like a unity affirmation to me. But Sam Keen takes it a step deeper and a step further for me. He says, each day, befriend a single fear. Then the miscellaneous terrors of being human will not join forces to form a knot of anxiety that rules your life from the shadows. We learn to fly, he says, not by becoming fearless, but by the daily practice of courage. So we start with the little things. Things we'd rather step away from, we step toward. But as far as I can figure it, the bottom line is that life is both wonderful and terrifying. But perhaps it's most precious because it's not endless, because it is so fragile. I was telling my granddaughter the other day, she's about to defend her thesis in college and she's terrified. And she says, I can't sleep and I can't eat, and she was just kind of overwhelmed. And I said, Claire, do you love fresh flowers? She said, well, of course. I said, me too. I'd rather receive fresh flowers as a gift than just about anything. And I said, what do we love so much about fresh flowers? That they are fragile. That we know they won't last. And so we savor them every single day that we have them. But you got to ask, so why are you telling us to follow a path with a heart when it's so terrifying? Why shouldn't I do whatever I can to avoid my fear? Why should I step toward things that scare me? It doesn't make sense. Perhaps it doesn't to the finite mind. But the problem is, when security alone is your vision, it is way too small for the human spirit. Right? It's too constricting, too narrow. We human beings were made to walk that edge between, fear and fascination. So what does Jesus do, knowing he has a week to live? He confronts materialism by driving merchants from the temple. He confronts the hypocrisy of the Pharisees at the temple. He continues to teach people about the power within them. And he spends, and I always think of this as the most important thing I think of Holy Thursday, he spends quality time with his beloved family, his apostles. In other words, he does nothing different because his whole life has been a path with a heart. So I want to leave you with a question this morning. If this were the last week of your life, what would you do with it? God bless you all. I think that this
What a beautiful message. An important message. What would I do if I knew that I could not fail? If I believed with the wind always fill up my sail? How far would I go? What could I achieve? Trusting the hero in me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? Today, what would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What if we're all meant to do what we secretly dream? What would you ask if you knew you could have anything? Like the mighty oak sleeps in the heart of a seed, there are miracles in you and me. If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? What would I do today if I were brave? And if I refuse to listen to the voice of fear, would the voice of courage whisper in my ear? If I were brave, I'd walk the razor's edge, where fools and dreamers dare to tread. I'd never lose faith, even when losing my way. What step would I take today if I were brave? I am brave. What would I do today? I am brave. What will 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 I do today? I am